Brooklyn Beckham has launched an absolutely astonishing tirade at his family in a six-page Instagram post, which is sure to send this whole feud into a new level of meltdown. I think this is like his last resort. He feels like look, so much stuff has been said and done without him there, and this is his time to have his say, to get it all out there once and for all. This has sort of been going on for quite a few years now. You know, he got married in 2022 to Nicola Peltz. And at that point, there was, friction already around the wedding dress. Famously, Victoria was supposed to design the dress originally, and then there was some back and forth about whether Victoria was sort of ousted and Nicola chose Valentino instead, or whether the dress wasn't going to be ready in time. And that's what Brooklyn is saying. Part of that in his statement, he says that Victoria sort of pulled the plug at the 11th hour, which meant that Nicola had to find a new dress. But that's not the only bombshell that he drops about the wedding. You know, that's like kind of a key part of where this feud clearly started, because he says that Victoria hijacked, his words, hijacked the first dance, and made it all about her. And he even says that she danced inappropriately on him in front of the guests. And this is a big 500 guest lavish wedding in Florida. And he said that he's never been more uncomfortable in his life, which is just really quite a brutal thing to say about your mum. But clearly, he's so upset about what went down at the wedding. There's so many claims in this statement. You know, it's a six-page statement on Instagram. He said that, this narrative that his wife controls him couldn't be further from the truth. And he says, it was his parents that controlled him for so long. He said that their social media posts are performative. And he goes back to the wedding. He even says that his mum called him evil, for seating his grandparents at the top table at their wedding. There's really a lot in there, and he says, Brand Beckham always comes first, above everything else. Clearly, there was frictions then from the wedding onwards, but it was really last spring around David's 50th birthday celebrations that things went up to another level. Brooklyn and Nicola had flown to the UK to attend the events, but then obviously there was things that went down because they never actually went to any of the several events that David threw for his birthday. In the statement, Brooklyn says that he was up for attending, but was told that he was only really welcome at the big showy bash with cameras and celebrities. That was famously one that Tom Cruise and lots of other celebs went to. And he said no, he wanted to see his parents, privately behind closed doors. And at that point, he said that he was told that that could go ahead, but Nicola would not be welcome, which is another real brutal blow if that's the truth. The Beckhams themselves, David and Victoria haven't commented on any of this directly. They haven't reacted to any of the claims made in Brooklyn's statement. But, they are going to be absolutely devastated by this, I'm sure. They've made it clear on social media over the past year that they really want a relationship with Brooklyn. And just earlier this month, The Sun revealed that Brooklyn had sent a legal letter to his parents saying, please do not contact me anymore. Only contact me by lawyers. And that is ultimately when he decided to block his parents on Instagram, which is another bold move. I do sort of feel like there was probably a point of return up until then, even, I'm sure if he'd come back to his parents and said, I'm sorry and let's work this out, then there would have been a point. But clearly, that's not something that he wants, even though they have said that they really want Brooklyn in their lives. It does sort of feel like this statement now is a point of no return. It feels like it would be so hard to come back from this, to reconcile the family. There's clearly a lot of hurt on Brooklyn's side and with Nicola. They have gone through a tough time. He said that he's been really anxious, when he was in contact with his parents, but he said a weight has been lifted, now that he doesn't have them in his life, which is another brutal blow for his parents. But perhaps he just sees his life as being better and more straightforward without them. It'll be really interesting to see what happens in the coming days. I'm sure Victoria and David will at some point have to, address these claims in some way. It's really upsetting for the whole family, and it remains to be seen whether anything can really be done to mend this fracture and this rift in the family.